Pronunciation Pro.
Pronunciation Pro.
Hello again. Today I'm excited to have a special guest with me. My friend Kris Amerikos is an English teacher with a great YouTube channel and an online English course. He is going to share with you 3 helpful tips on how you can improve your spoken English. I'll turn it over to you, Kris.
Hey everybody, my name's Kris, and first of all, thank you so much to Annie for having me here on your channel and letting me share these 3 tips with everyone about how speaking English every day can help improve your fluency. Now, if you stay until the end of this video, I also have 1 extra bonus tip, and I know you're gonna find it really useful, so stay until the end of this video. The first thing that you need to know about speaking English every day is that it helps to build your communication skills. I'm not talking about grammar rules, pronunciation rules, and building a big vocabulary. I'm talking about the process of talking with another person. One example of communication skills is active listening. This is sending signals to the other person that you're speaking with that you're listening, you understand what they're saying, and they can continue. And it can also be a way to show people that you don't understand. But typically, when we talk about active listening, we're talking about making some sounds or saying some small words that tell the other person that we hear them and that they can continue. It sometimes sounds funny to people who are learning English because when you're speaking to a person, you say part of a sentence and then the other person says, uh-huh, okay, yeah, uh-huh, oh, yeah, really? And this is active listening. This is just a way for us to say something back to the person who is speaking without interrupting them, without stopping their speech. But it tells them that, okay, I can continue speaking, this person heard me, this person understands me. And if you don't use active listening, then a person might think that they're boring or that you're just not interested or not paying attention to what they're saying. Another communication skill that you need to build if you want to be really fluent in English is turn taking. This is important no matter what language you speak. It's just a basic communication skill. Basically, this is about when it's your turn to speak and when it's the other person's turn to speak. Now, if we use active listening, then we can tell the person that we're paying attention, but when the person stops speaking, how do we know that it's time for us to speak and they're not just taking a really long break? This is called turn taking. That's one of the skills that you develop when you speak to lots of different types of people, because people have different communication styles, and we need to understand different styles to understand when it's time for us to start speaking, when it's time for us to stop speaking, and really for us to understand, is one person just speaking the whole time and the other person doesn't have a chance to speak? That's also not good. And I'm sure that you've met some people like that who just keep talking and talking and talking, and they don't really seem to be interested in what you have to say. It's also important to use body language. If you're looking somewhere else when a person is trying to speak to you, then they're going to think that you're not interested or you're not paying attention. Typically in English, we look a person in the eyes, and that means that we're paying attention and we are engaged. And if we're not looking at them, then it means we're thinking about something else and our brain, our mind is in a different place. Body language isn't only about your posture and how you hold your body. It's also about your facial expressions. Most English native speakers are not going to tell you if you make an English mistake. They're going to just give you a strange look. Because in English language culture, it's rude to tell someone that they're making a mistake in English and to correct all of their mistakes. Instead, we let the person speak and we try to understand what they're saying. And if we don't understand, we give them a strange look or we ask them to repeat themselves or to say it a different way. And this is why learning body language, but specifically facial expressions, is important when you're trying to become fluent in English. Using your face to tell someone that you hear them, that you understand them, or the opposite, that you just don't understand them or you didn't hear what they were trying to say, this can be a really effective communication tactic. People who have a lot of experience communicating in English usually learn how to use their body to communicate these things so that they don't always have to use words to say that. Another really important communication skill that a lot of English learners forget about is smiling. English speakers smile when they speak a lot more than speakers of some other languages. And it's really important to smile, because if you speak and you don't smile, a person might get a different idea. They might think that you're not sincere. They might think that you're not friendly and you don't want to continue speaking. Learning to smile when you speak English, at least a little bit, is an important communication skill that you need to develop. It will help you sound more fluent, and it'll make people want to speak with you more. And then the last communication skill that you also want to develop while you're learning English is communication style. There are different styles of communication, and different styles are correct in different situations. You don't want to use formal language when you're speaking to someone who is just a friend, and you don't want to speak informally if you go to court or you're trying to discuss something with a person in the government. Typically, we call this register. We call it formal register and informal register. And this is part of the style of communication that you use. It's important that you use the right communication style so that people understand the words that you say, and so that they understand those words correctly with the right intention.
Kris, this is such great advice. So just to summarize tip number 1, speaking English every day will help you build your communication skills, but not just in grammar and vocabulary. The communication skills that Kris is talking about include active listening, where you give those verbal cues that you're paying attention and engaged in the conversation. Then there's the skill of turn taking, which is practicing that flow between speaking and listening, okay? And then next we have practicing reading other people's body language, and also knowing what to do with your own body in conversation, including the very important skill of smiling. You really can't learn these specific communication skills unless you are practicing them daily in conversation.
The second reason that you need to speak English every day if you want to become fluent is motivation. A lot of people are prevented from speaking because they're afraid of what's going to happen when they speak. They're afraid of mistakes, they're afraid of criticism from other people, and they're afraid that people won't understand them and they'll be embarrassed. But most of all, they're afraid of the unknown. Fear of the unknown is what stops you from speaking and continues to stop you. It's demotivating. So that's why you have to just jump in and try speaking. The first time you try it, you find out what it's really about and how it really feels. If you've learned English from books, from films, from the radio, or maybe even from YouTube videos, then you know that it's a challenge to take what you've learned when listening and reading and put it into practice when you're speaking. And the best way to motivate yourself to want to speak more and to feel that you're okay to speak is to understand what speaking is really about. People who don't practice speaking, they don't have a lot of experience doing that. They don't have a lot of practice. And when you don't have a lot of practice, you don't really understand what it means to start speaking and to make an attempt to speak. So taking away that fear of the unknown is done by just jumping in and doing it. And after you've done that, you'll find that there's something that is really, really motivating that happens. You speak, you say maybe just a word, maybe a sentence, maybe a paragraph. Maybe you speak for a minute or 2 minutes, and the person you're speaking to understands you. And that is the greatest motivation of all.
Yes, I love how you refer to this as fear of the unknown. It's very normal to feel this fear, but the question is, are you going to let that fear hold you back? Or are you going to take control and still speak up, even though you have that fear? I promise that as you do, as you speak up, you'll feel that fear less and less, and it will be replaced with incredible confidence.
The third reason that you need to speak English every day is to build fluency. Now, that's probably what you were expecting this whole video to be about, but fluency might be something different from what you think it is. The first reason that speaking every day helps you gain fluency is because it decreases your hesitation. You might feel like it's difficult to take all of those thoughts and ideas out of your mind and push them out of your mouth. That's the language barrier. But each time you open your mouth and you start speaking and you try to speak, that language barrier breaks a little bit more. And another thing happens each time you take the opportunity to speak. It increases the speed with which you can recall words and phrases and rules. You know, I have a problem when I learn other languages that I like to learn rules, but then when I go to speak, it's hard to apply those rules. So I'm always thinking in my head, is this correct? And before I speak, I remember this rule and I try to apply the rule to the words that I'm going to say. And then by the time I want to speak, the other person already started saying another sentence. But when I practice speaking and I take those opportunities that I get to just open my mouth and try to push the words out, even if they're not the right words, then I see that it's easier for me to remember the words to say, and next time that rule comes to me much faster, and the process of remembering the rule and then using the rule to form the word and then saying the word, that whole process becomes much, much faster every time that I do it. And really it's decreasing the reaction time from the thoughts in your head to the words that come out of your mouth. And it's really important for me to tell you this fact. A lot of people think that fluency is about speaking really quickly, and that's not true. Fluency is about flow. It's about saying things the right way, and it's about using the language correctly for the situation that you're in so that people understand you.
Oh, absolutely. I love the way you said that fluency is about flow, not about speaking fast. This is great news, especially if you're working on your English pronunciation. Because like I've said a million times, slowing down is the very best way to improve your English pronunciation. So it is possible to speak slower and with incredible fluency.
So those are my 3 tips for why you should speak English every day and how it will help you become more fluent. But I promised you one bonus tip also. And here it is. You also need to speak English every day because you need to make mistakes. A lot of people don't understand that. They think that you should never make mistakes. And if that's what you think, well, good luck finding a person who never makes mistakes because we all make mistakes. And making mistakes is what helps you become more fluent. Making mistakes is what helps you improve your communication skills, and making mistakes actually gives you more motivation. First of all, when you make a mistake, it gives you something new to learn. Because when you're just studying in the book, you think that you know all the answers, right? If there's a question on an app on your phone, you can answer that question and you think that you know the answer. But then when someone speaks to you in real life, will you say it correctly? Well, usually those two things aren't connected. And making a mistake gives you something that you can learn from. And really what I love about making mistakes, and you should love your mistakes too, by the way. You shouldn't be afraid of your mistakes. You should be really happy when you make mistakes because it's an opportunity for you to take something and make it personal about you. I don't like making mistakes. I love making mistakes because it gives me an opportunity to really learn something. When I make a mistake and then I have to think about it and correct it later, I remember it for a really long time. And that's because personal experiences are much easier for us to remember. So when you make a mistake when you're practicing speaking, instead of just making a mistake on an app or when you're taking a test, when you make a mistake speaking, it stays with you much longer and you continue to learn from it.
You're absolutely right that those personal experiences are the very best teacher of all.
Again, my name's Kris from KrisAmerikos.com, and I want to thank Annie one more time for having me here on her channel and letting me share these tips with you. Now let's go back over to Annie.
Thank you so much, Kris. These tips are so helpful for English language learners. So, as a review, speaking English every day will help you improve your fluency because, 1, you'll build your communication skills, not just grammar and vocabulary, but your ability to use active listening and turn taking and appropriate body language. Number 2, your motivation will increase as you experience the positive feedback loop of those small daily wins. Then number 3, you'll build fluency. The flow of words will come to you faster and easier. Thanks again, Kris, for joining us today. In the comment section, I'd love to hear the tip that was most helpful for you, and be sure to like and subscribe so we can help you build stronger English communication skills and build incredible confidence in speaking English.
Pronunciation Pro.
Pronunciation Pro.